you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Snap Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College, Dabigo Road.
Welcome to Second Take with IDK with Isma Dakawa Chigongo, the man who does know something about sport. My name is Mebo Kebirunji. What a fantastic few days we have had of sport. Hello, Isma.
Hello, Mebo. Glad to be here in a week when we've had, I was going to call it a match past, but it's called, I think, a fly
pass. Yes.
Of our Sukhois. Yeah. They've gone around Kampala City quite a bit, including today when we are shooting this show. Under a slight drizzle in Lugogo. Yeah, but glad to be here. In good health, alhamdulillah.
I'll start by reading some messages that have come through. This is regarding our show. Derek Mubiru said the show we did earlier during the week. Thanks, IDK, for talking about the AC Milan and Juve game. Oh my God, it was so boring and bad. Luckily, it was a late hour game and we had no other options. Tushabe says, wow, I would be surprised if Isma picked Arsenal to win against Madrid on Wednesday. But not forgetting that he has only gotten one tip right. But I must correct this person. Yes, you gave Atletico, but it was a draw. So
no, I actually gave Atletico to win 2-1 and Arsenal to win the return leg 2-0 because I think Arsenal will play the final. But more importantly, I'm not here to predict Arsenal to win. If I had to do that, maybe I switch off the microphone and do it. I think I'm here to give opinion, which I can give very credible reason for.
And if you think one of his opinion, you fact check it and it's not correct, let us know. Like
I'm also
someone
very glad, when it's wrong.
Someone here says, WKK Pod Mobile says, Isma, Usain Bolt was Puma sponsored.
Puma, yeah.
Sponsored.
And that is Jamaica for the national team. I think on his other individual races, Monaco and South Jamaica is Nike.
Okay.
The shoe. Yeah, and it's different. And it's very important to differentiate between the shoe and the jersey because the kit is Jamaica, the shoe is different. Yeah.
Kasozi Yusuf says, Mebo matches Isma's energy, which makes the show quite interesting. Thank you for that comment. And Derek Mubiru.
Preaching to the converted.
The way IDK doesn't talk about Timberwolves, what did we do to you, the Minnesotans? And let us start from there. People are not happy.
Those who are not happy. Okay. I think to start with the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are locked in a very interesting series with the Denver Nuggets. By the time we do this show, they've played 5 games, and that series is led by the Timberwolves. That is 3-2. Despite missing DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards because their backcourt is gone. DiVincenzo will not return this season while Anthony Edwards is expected to return at some point. So they have to find a way. That game 6 is in Minnesota. They've done a very good job. I think Rudy Gobert has been brilliant on defending Nikola Jokic. I also like some of the defensive work they put in on Jamal Murray. And that has put them in a fairly good situation against a team with whom they played the most number of games in the last few years. Because of this 5 now, they played 40 games in the last 5 or 6 seasons between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. This series often brings out the best in the Timberwolves, and hopefully they bring the same energy. If they play as well as they played defensively in 2 of those games, then I think they'll have enough to knock out the Denver Nuggets, for whom Nikola Jokic is having what you'd call a poor series, but you'd also give a lot of credit to Rudy Gobert. The French 7-foot center, I think, is playing one of his better games, not only defensive, but he's also challenging Nikola Jokic, I think, on offense. And I think that is going to be a critical factor. But if they get through, they play against the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs have won their series 4-1. And they are through to the next round against the Portland Trail Blazers. Victor Wembanyama and the young core of Dylan Harper, Sheldon Castle, they've done enough, of course, aided by the old wise head of De'Aaron Fox. That series is done. Then the other series in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the champions, are also through, swept the Phoenix Suns 4-0, but they will be waiting for who comes through, who they play in that semi-final, because the Lakers lead that one 3-2. The Houston Rockets won Game 5. So there's still a lot of stuff to sort out. Game 6 will be in Houston, and hopefully if the Rockets can get that result, then we'll have a Game 7. And they say in American sport, the most important 2 words in American sport are Game 7. So if they get that, then the OKC will have to wait. But I think that series for me is it's about earning the honor to lose to the OKC. I don't think either team have the tools to beat Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series. That's a Western Conference done. All the other series in the East are 3-2. The Knicks lead the Atlanta Hawks 3-2. The Celtics lead the Philadelphia 76ers 3-2 after the Sixers won Game 5 on the back of 33 points of Joel Embiid. The Cleveland Cavaliers lead the Toronto Raptors 3-2. That is also not sorted. And then the Orlando Magic, the seed 8, lead the top seed, the Detroit Pistons, also 3-2. So all those are going into a Game 6. Hopefully 2 or 3 of them will give us a Game 7.
A Game 7 from there. But here in Uganda, tell us about the JKL Dolphins. What's happening in their camp?
So there was a story that we should have discussed actually much earlier on the show. I should have discussed in our previous edition. JKL Lady Dolphins, who are 4-time league champions, go and write a letter requesting the Federation of Uganda Basketball Associations to postpone their game against the KIU Rangers, and they give reasons as flimsy or as huge as having too many injuries and having their players doing their exams at university, which is no different from most of the players in these leagues, because most of them are students who are feeding off scholarships, all this kind of thing. So that was denied, and the game was added as a walkover, 20-0. But for me, the problems are deeper. Freedom Owora, who is the owner, financer, and the back of the JKL Lady Dolphins, I think has not been going through a very good spell financially. This season, they registered only 10 players for the league. And you have as many as 18 slots to register, so they do not have the players. So when 2 or 3 get injured, then they are going to walk out with 7 or with 6 players. So they have those challenges that are very internal, that I remind about the crisis of running amateur sport. That sometimes you have aspirations, you have dreams, you have things you'd want to do with the team, but you just do not have the resources. So for me, the challenges do not even are not even told in this story of JKL awarding a walkover. But for me, the challenges of their team are exemplified by just that walkover. The challenges for me are much deeper. And eventually, the bigger fear is if a team like them pulled out of the league. Because there's also been a threat internally from JKL to pull out of the league if some of their requests are not made by the organizers of the league. And that would be catastrophic, because currently, Freedom Owora, who is the chairman, owner and finance of this club, is the chairman of the organizing committee of the league. Remember, clubs had complained about FUBA not giving their league sufficient time in terms of preparation. So they request to form a league management committee that is managed by the clubs. And the club managers constitute themselves into a management committee, which Owora is the head. So they are actually the league organizers. And now his league is the one that, his team is the one that wanted to bend the rules. They organize the league, but they don't run the competition, because there's a competitions committee considered by FUBA, which runs all the other affairs of the league. So would be catastrophic. You don't want to be losing teams, but wouldn't be far off.
Sorry, continue.
Because recently we're discussing Black Pearls.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Isn't it a wider problem of women's sport generally?
For me, it's not even women's sport, because in rugby, Kakira Simbas refused to come for their game against Pirates not too long ago because they don't have the resources. And that's always the first sign for a team before they pull out. And you could go, and there are many teams, you could go into the football, Arua Central, Game Boys from Tororo. There have been many cases over the past 40 years plus of teams that come into the league and then pull out. So maybe the challenges are bigger for women's sport because it doesn't have even the backing. There isn't so much money. There aren't many people who are going to sponsor women's sport currently because they do not see it as a viable economic option. I think even the teams in the FIFA Women's Super League also do have their own struggles. They are lucky that you have teams like Kampala Queens, you have Makerere, you have school teams like Awempe and St. Noah in the league. So it's a very tough balancing act, but also reminds us of the kind of journey we have to walk. Because while we might say these about teams here, I think it's a global challenge. Manchester United, for all their resources, they've been very successful, generate a lot of revenue. The women's team has only started a few years ago. So with Liverpool, yeah, there are teams that have had the culture of women's teams, the Arsenals, the Barcelonas, but even that has only come into football even at the top level in Europe. So if you imagine what it's taken teams like United to get to this, what about a team at our level? What did it take to sustain a women's team? So it's a very, very, very tough balancing act. And perhaps the way society is structured, women's sport has bigger challenges. Some that have achieved gender parity, let's say like tennis, where the prize money is the same.
Yeah.
Golf doesn't. Football doesn't. And they don't even have the crowds.
They don't.
I was watching the most successful team recently in English football, Chelsea, who have won the league back to back. And I think they're playing a top game against Tottenham. And the stadium was barely a third full. So it's a challenge that is very global. So when I see all these debates that come out with the former US women's captain, Megan Rapinoe, calling for equal pay, sometimes, okay, these debates are very good for the heart, but eventually equal pay is about commercialization.
Yeah.
You have to be able to generate the money. The WNBA has delayed to start this one because of a collective bargaining agreement. And those girls in the NBA, the WNBA, the Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilsons, the Angel Reese do not make the kind of money the other players do. The Luka Doncic and SGA, they are making $60-70 million a year. That's a dream for women's basketball in the US. So for me, it's about commercialization. How do you get people to watch women's sport? Even people, the society like ours, view women in sport as something they should be doing, or they even still have to get rid of societal biases, where someone watches a woman doing a game and their first thing is like, that should be a man. Yeah. So it's a very difficult situation that women's sport finds itself in.
Let's talk about Nemo Stars and Sportes. They have, unfortunately, they are exiting or have exited. Yeah,
they've exited the CFVB Men's Club Africa Club Champions that is happening in Rwanda at the round of 16th stage. Nemo Stars beaten by Kenya Ports Authority by 3-1, and Sportes beaten by Rwanda Energy Group by 3-0 in the round of 16 encounters. REG are actually coached by Benon Mugisha, former Sportes coach who moved across the border. I know the money is a key factor in that, and now he's in a place where the resources allow him to recruit some of the best players in the region and compete at that level. I think they should be backing REG, the people in Rwanda, to even go a step closer, because now they're into the quarterfinals. Of course, when you go to these competitions, the first focus is where Al Ahly are. Yeah, in any sport, by the way, not only football, in volleyball, in basketball, because Al Ahly is, for me, the epitome of success in African sport, and I've had the chance to visit their complex. Yeah, and you sense they're going to be very successful for even the next 100 years. They're already the best club in football for the past 100, and they should be the best club in many sports for the past 100 years. So I think people in Rwanda will be feeling very confident about some of their sides and of how deep or how far they could go in this competition. But for Nemo Stars and Sportes, a West rail run, but clearly when you only train volleyball between, let's say, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., there's so much you can do against teams that are fully professional and hit the ball at 6 a.m., at 4 p.m., and spend the entire day on the court. It was always going to be a tough ask for them. I think the success is being able to raise the resources and be able to play. I would wish that most of the players they took to these competitions would be young and then get back for another competition, another one. Maybe like Nemo Stars have, because there are players in that squad that have been part of the setup for 9 years and have played multiple editions of this competition. The Georgia Poros and Smith Okum, they've been part of this competition for a very long time. You wish they have the same kind of conveyor belt that gets teams to this competition, the same players there. But Sporters have been here for 30 years, but this was their first continental competition. Just to emphasize how difficult raising resources can be. That when this competition does happen in Egypt and Tunisia and Morocco, they cannot raise the resources because you're going to need 65 million shillings plus just to get a team through Entebbe to an airport in North Africa. It's much cheaper when the competition is in Kigali or in Kenya. I know Nyaya is supposed to host the Nations Championship, the national teams later on this year. And hopefully, Uganda will have the resources to go there and compete.
Yeah, that's next door.
Yeah.
You can even take a bus. Now, Isma, when we did the show earlier in the week, we talked about the semi-final of the Champions League. And I think I did say, PSG Bayern, that might be like a final. What a game it was. But before that, let's talk about the 3 penalties. One withdrawn, the game ending in a draw, and Arteta fuming. But was the ref right to withdraw that penalty?
I still think it should have been a penalty because the Atletico defender clearly plays Eberechi Eze's foot and not the ball inside the box. I think it's not a penalty. However, I think what VR is looking at, in the moment he's thinking, Eze has played the ball and lost it, so he can't get to it. Then, thereafter, there is a collision of boots when both players are dropping their feet to the grass. I think that's what the referee is looking at. And that's why that is not given. I also think the first penalty that is given to Arsenal, I've seen debates that it's soft. Yeah? But for me, a penalty. I think a penalty for Victor Gyökeres. Because when he protects the ball and has to turn on the defender, and the defender does not defend that situation very well, does not take control of the situation well, then you're susceptible to giving us something like that. But it's also very important, in the third segment I'm going to say is that because we watch a lot of Premier League, we are making a lot of our decisions with our bias for the Premier League. But the rules in some situations are very different for the Premier League and the rest of Europe or the Champions League. For the penalty that Arsenal concede, in the Premier League it's not given. Because the ball bounces off the ground and touches Ben White's arm or palm, but the distance between the ball, the ground and the arm is very small. So the Premier League take into account the distance and how much time the defender has to take his hand away from the path of the ball, and there isn't much time. So, in the Premier League, that's not a penalty. But in the Champions League, that's a penalty. That's why the penalty that is also awarded to PSG in their game against Bayern in the Premier League wouldn't have been a penalty. Because Alphonso Davies starts by hiding his arms. Then when the ball is played, it brushes his shorts or his jersey and then touches the arm. In the Premier League, when the ball is played off the body onto the arm, it's not a penalty. But in the Champions League, it's a penalty. So
you're supposed to put your hand away quickly.
You're supposed to put your hand away quickly. So I think people need to watch the game with an understanding of the rules and the competition because they totally differ. What the Champions League gives is not what the Premier League gives. And FIFA have left leg room for that. Of course, after all, the rules that are used by FIFA are made by UK federations, IFAB. This week, actually, they made a ruling after that Prestiani incident that players who cover their mouth as they speak, as they abuse others, will be sent off.
Agree. Straight red card.
However, we've seen players have conversations. I don't know where the line will be drawn. But I have no problem with trash talking. Because not everyone who covers them, because I could cover your mouth to taunt you, but not be abusive.
Why cover your mouth in the first place?
The cameras, Lugezi of the media has made people.
You should be clear. What is it you're
Okay,
saying?
the
So
people
we
in
will
the people in
assume.
the places where there is trash talking and what we call in cricket sledging. In cricket they sledge and no one covers their mouth. The Australians are masters at it. And luckily these days their team is weak, so they have no one to sledge. In basketball, it's very normal. Actually, the other day, Jaden McDaniel, now for that person, McDaniel, so that person who supports Minnesota, even went to a press conference and said the opposing team cannot defend, yeah, which was totally trash talking. And luckily, when he walks out, he does the same. He plays in a way to match the words, because sometimes you could say something and then the words come back to bite you. So when IFAB are making those kind of rules, and that for me was just a diversion, just to emphasize that the UK have a lot of leverage on those rules. But in an era of VR, it's very difficult for FIFA to have the same rules. Like I've stated, the penalty that
Federations.
Atletico is given, converted by Julian Alvarez in the Premier League, is not a penalty. In Europe, it is. The penalty that PSG are given against Bayern, in England, it's not a penalty. In Europe, it is. And there are many other decisions. Now they have been trialing another rule with the offside rule, where they want to create. Arsene Wenger has argued and is ahead of some of these things at FIFA. He says he wants there to be daylight between the defender and the attacking player for it to count as an offside or not, for it to be flagged or not. So the rules will keep changing. What is confusing, I think, now is that we watch multiple competitions, it's similar incidents, different rules. That's for me the challenge that the world has presently. But also, the more the people making the rules have altered the offside and handball rules, the more confusing they've become. That now you almost have to look at every situation with in its own merit, not to make a blanket rule that this is how a handball is called. Now they introduce a ball to hand. Yeah, 20 years ago there was no ball to hand. It was just a handball. Now here, the rules have changed, but the more they've changed the offside and the handball rule, the more confusing I think they've become in terms of interpretation. So we go back to the game on the pitch, because that's not the only thing that happened. I thought Arsenal were brilliant defensively. In the phases where Atletico Madrid were on top and large periods of that second half, especially from the start of the second half until John Alvarez goes off injured, because I thought it was the glue that kept that attacking side of Atletico Madrid on fire. Him and largely Antoine Griezmann after it was a change of position, because remember, Antoine Griezmann was not playing that position in the first half before he became a number 10 as a playmaker right behind Alvarez. Then the game turned around. Defensively, I thought Arsenal were brilliant. We needed David Raya to make saves. He did as he's done all season. And when they didn't create too many chances, I don't remember Yano Black making some big saves similar to David Raya. But in the end, on the Champions League night, even in an era where there is no away goals rule, a 1-0 result at the Metropolitano is not a bad result, I think, for the Arsenal. They'll be very, very confident of taking care of business in the return leg. After all, they've beaten Atletico this season previously by 4-0. So if they play as well and maybe convert a little better, have Bukayo Saka back into the side, have a Berechi Eze get a lot more minutes than he did this week, then Arsenal should have enough in the tank to make it to the final for the first time in 20 years.
I still can't believe it's that long, because I remember watching that final and the goalkeeper was sent off.
Yeah, Jens Lehmann.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Is that 20 years ago?
Yeah, 2006 against Barcelona.
I won't tell you what I was doing. But what a fantastic PSG Bayern game. Had everyone talking.
Except if you're a defender.
And
Or
a
you're a coach who
goalkeeper.
loves, or if you're a goalkeeper, or if you're a coach who loves the defensive setup of teams. Amore is one of those. I love my buffet. I love the balance. And I love my buffet in many areas of life. That's why I don't carry so many extreme opinions about people, about things. Because I think for this to happen, this has also to be in place. So I think it was entertaining. In terms of entertainment, people who want to make football part of entertainment, like going to a Rihanna concert or Ariana Grande, this is it. Or for those who love Michael Jackson performing Smooth Criminal back in 1985, this is it. This was pure entertainment, especially on the attacking side. Many of us have already stated this one. These are the two best sides in Europe, especially in an attacking sense. They score the largest number of goals. Bayern have broken every kind of record in terms of scoring the German Bundesliga, and are breaking that also for the kind of points gathered if they go on the run they are on, and they're trying to win a treble. So we have that. And then we all know PSG are defending champions in Europe, and I've argued
Yeah.
here that they are clicking into gear. After not very good first part of the season, I think their players are back in fitness and back in form.
They've
And
also
all
struggled at home a little bit.
they've struggled at
somehow.
home a little
Yeah.
bit for most part of the season, but they've clicked into gear. So in terms of purity in attack, this was brilliant, brilliant football. It's the kind of stuff that you want to show academy players that this is how they play in attack. Some of the best defenders, let's say Nuno Mendes, the PSG left back, has been taunted to be the best left back in the world over the past 1.5 to 2 years, was taken to the cleaners and eaten for dinner by Michael Olise for the entire game. Konrad Laimer, brought on at a time when Bayern thought they could cover that side of on the left after withdrawing Alfonso Davies, was the cause of the 2 goals. Yeah, and you could argue that there's some brilliant passing, because one of the passes Vitinha plays for Desiree Doué to get that kind of space behind Konrad Laimer is a brilliant, brilliant pass. So it depends on where you stand. I'm one of those who thinks I was thoroughly entertained. Yet on another day, I'll come here and credit the defense, because I'm a bit of a moderate, yeah, on either side. Sometimes I love this, sometimes I love that. So I thought in terms of an attacking sense, it was a beautiful, beautiful game to watch. It ended like most of us, I think, must have felt. There will be lots of goals. PSG will win the
Yeah.
first leg. I think Bayern will win the second leg. It brought out some very good things in Ousmane Dembele and some very bad ones. The chance he missed. It also brought out some very good things in Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. The 2 goals that he scored and the brilliance when he's coming on the weak side of the defense. And then you've got to add Harry Kane as a passer. If you had doubts about his ability to drop at the center line and play that final pass into the forwards, the one he plays for Luis Diaz and all the others, brilliant. The only thing he didn't do in that game is to score from open play, because he scored from a set piece. Defensively, both sides not good. Manuel Neuer not able to make a save in the entire game, did not save a single shot. 5 shots on target, 5 goals conceded. He's not experienced a game like that, and he's been in goal for the past 23 years. That's how long we've seen him, yeah, since his days at Schalke. So I think a great advert. The people who are marketing this game are not purists, are not people who prefer for the game to be played with structure. If you're attracting new fans, I think that game gets you UEFA new fans who want to come and watch football, because they think there's going to be lots of goals, yeah, and lots of noise inside the stadium.
Yeah.
I think you get that with that kind of game. For those who want to watch the game for the X's and O's, and there are very few of us, it may not be the perfect game. But great advert, great advert. I thoroughly enjoyed. I kept, like you said, wow. I kept watching the game and I was gaping most of the time, because the attacking talent, when PSG went at that Bayern Munich backline, it felt like it had been torn to shreds. It's like watching a cloth that has been torn to shreds, because there's so much space in that Bayern Munich backline that we haven't seen for this season. And I've called them one of the most stable sides in Europe. Now PSG make them look like high school defenders, and Bayern do not return the favor on the other side, because I was praising Pacho for being the rising star amongst defenders in Europe. He got lost in all that. He was just a spoke in the wheel. They were all being taken to the cleaners at the same time. So Brilliant game of football.
So, of course, in hindsight, I'm just saying this. Had the drone gone the other way, PSG, let's say, versus Arsenal, and then Bayern versus Atletico,
We'll never
it
know.
would have been boring.
I think also the contrast is good. One of the things that makes life and sport is a contrast. When teams meet attack versus defense, yeah, sometimes that's very good viewing. So we'll never know. I think in the end, but luckily we'll have one of them in the final.
One of them.
We'll get one of Atletico and Arsenal
And one
against
of
PSG and Bayern. So then we'll get a bit of finality. But for me, the world is about Timon and Pumbaa. The world is about Beauty and the Beast. The world is about intelligence and foolishness. The world is about the two extremes meeting.
good and evil.
Yeah.
Arsenal are at home to Fulham this weekend.
In the Premier League.
Yes, English
another
Premier League.
must-win encounter. And very important because they could go as many as 6 points clear. So they've got to go there and just get the 3 points. I think the one thing that Arteta can look at is the ability to rotate. He had some very good players on that bench in Madrid because he had Eze, he had Bukayo Saka, who is playing himself back into fitness. I thought gave decent minutes when he came on. So those walk straight back into the starting side, I would imagine, for the Arsenal. Then get the 3 points here. They've got to win. You have an opportunity to go 6 points clear before Man City play on Monday night away
at Everton
at the Hill Dickinson. Then Man City embark on that very difficult track because then they play 7 games in 24 days. Because now they've learned when their fixtures against Bournemouth and Crystal Palace will be played.
And they are not happy.
Yeah, they're not happy. Those 2 games are sandwiched, form the sandwich for which the FA Cup is the meat in the middle. So Arsenal go there, beat a Fulham side. They are not fighting for anything. Marco Silva must be reading the news, and his name is being taunted as one of the favorites to take over as Chelsea. Just finished. They are trying to finish the season strong. There isn't much to fight for. So for an Arsenal side, in front of 60,000 starved fans, very hungry, very thirsty for a league title after 22 years, get the 3 points and then wait for what City have to do, because their game, I think also their game against Everton is, for me, feels like a walkover. Yes, David Moyes shows up for this, but they've gone off the boil little lately. They're not playing well, and City now know they have to be perfect to be able to have any chance of winning the league. So I think City will go to the Hill Dickinson and win, regardless of what result Arsenal gets. So the first thing is that fire the shot and send a signal to City, win your game, and then wait for what City will do.
To the run-in now, United versus Liverpool.
The definitive fixture of English football, I think, from the 60s to the 80s, to the 70s, 80s, and a bit of the 90s, yeah? Then it was overtaken by United against Arsenal, and now the big fixtures are now much more. You have a Tottenham, you have a Chelsea, you have a Man City, you have so many other sides. The two come into the side. While Liverpool seem to have turned the corner in terms of results, I think all the momentum is with Manchester United. Discussion about whether Bruno Fernandes can break that record for number of assists is on 19. The record is at 20. Kevin De Bruyne and Thierry Henry share that. So he has an opportunity to equal it and then break it. For a home fixture against United, that they need to just get 2 points out of their remaining fixtures and then seal their place in the Champions League, which would be quite a turnaround that Michael Carrick has caused after where Ruben Amorim had left the side. So, very important fixture in that sense to English football and where the two teams have been. But the king of this fixture over the past decade is away, because Mohamed Salah is out injured. This is his favorite side. He loves scoring against United and City. Those are the teams that have borne the brand the most of his time at Liverpool. So easy to call him a big game player. So I think the bigger questions, one for United, is how they set up. Does Michael Carrick then go with Benjamin Sesko again? Because he had to tweak that between Sesko and Cunha and then Amad Diallo off the right. Does he tweak that? I think for Liverpool, without Salah, where are the goals going to come from? They have already Cody Gakpo in the side, then Alexander Isak, who is back to a certain level of fitness.
Yeah, he scored last.
He scored last weekend against Crystal Palace. So in what shape then, and how many minutes is Isak able to give the side in a high intensity game against United? Should be an interesting one, but I think at kickoff it feels like advantage United.
Aston Villa and Spurs. Of course, it's a must-win for Spurs, but Aston Villa also need to stay up there.
Yeah, a game with ramifications on both sides of the table. If Villa win, I think this weekend they seal their place in the Champions League next season, which will be a very good reward for the kind of work Unai Emery has done with that side. They are headed to probably a Europa League final. If they knock out Nottingham Forest, then they play. Then they're in that Europa League final, and Emery gets a chance to win his 5th title, and Aston Villa get a chance to win another European title to add to their Champions League from the past. Photos that they normally parade in the corridor against teams that have not won the Champions League yet, and one of those teams is Arsenal. So, and these days they're in fairly bit of form. Villa, they've turned the corner. I think in the last 2 games, okay, they lost to Fulham in their previous one, but the last 3 games, I think, from where they were before that in the previous 7 or 8, they've turned the corner. Ollie Watkins is back amongst the goals. So, and then they have Tammy Abraham too, is offering support off a bench after returning from that loan spell, after returning in January. It should be interesting because Spurs 2-1 a game after failing to win in 15 the previous weekend, but that came at a cost of Xavi Simons not returning this season and also missing the World Cup. It's a game where Spurs, I think, for me, have no option but to show up. They have to show up. As they do that, West Ham will be playing a difficult game against Brentford at the GTEC Community Stadium. And then you also have Nottingham Forest.
Against Chelsea.
Against Chelsea. Of course, that too has ramifications, both in terms of top 5 aspirations and then in terms of relegation. So Spurs, for me, have the tougher of the fixtures because how Villa have been going this season and how needy Spurs are. Because right now I feel Nottingham Forest and Leeds, for me, have escaped that relegation. They need 1 more result out of 4 games, they'll get it. But now it's a shootout between West Ham and Spurs. If Spurs do not win this weekend and West Ham were to win at Brentford, then the obituary writer has to get his ink out. Get your paper and ink out and then start to explain what Spurs are going to look like in the championship.
Oh my.
With a nearly 70,000 seater stadium hosting those small sides there, the Stoke cities of this world.
So, Leicester is going down.
Yeah, they're into the League One.
Imagine
but they're not a very big side. But 11 years ago, yes, they won the league, but they won the Premier League after being 5,000 to 1 odds in terms of given a 5,000 to 1 chance of winning the league, and then they went on and delivered it. But they've had a mess in terms of the finances. They went down. They continue to pay very high wages. They're not making the money.
They fired Ranieri. I wasn't happy. Maybe it serves them right.
No, I don't think it's just Ranieri. It's not a big club.
No, I mean, amongst other things. Of course, most of the big players left.
Yeah, but most of it for me is financial. It's entirely about their profit loss account.
Died. Is that part of it?
That's true. The owner died. The son took over. But for me, it's financial. Because the points they are getting relegated not because they've been too bad, but because they lost points in the boardroom. And when you start with a negative point differential, then you have a lot of time to make up. You have a big gap to make up. And they've not made up that gap. So, fittingly, they'll be playing in League One. Spurs will be in the championship if they do not win this weekend and West Ham were to win. Because there's just 2 points between the 2 sides.
Yeah.
So, it's about what West Ham do. Maybe not even what Spurs do. Because it's going to be very hard for Spurs to go to Birmingham and win at Villa Park. And if they were to lose, which is a result that has been on my mind for the... if they were to lose 2-1 against a Villa side that is better than them, then that ink that ink pot. I don't know whether this generation has seen ink pots, where you dip and then
And
start
you
to
write.
write. Yeah, that ink pot has to be full to start to write Spurs obituary.
Here in the Uganda Premier League, I remember, we have worked together, and some of the stuff you talk about in the past has been, does this club want to win it? So I'm asking Vipers, why are they delaying their being enthroned, their coronation? What was that draw about?
They should eventually get their coronation because this was a point gained more than a point lost. They were trailing for long periods of that game. They had a goal disallowed in the first half for a player standing in an offside position when a shot was taken. Then they were played off the park in the second half. KCCA were the best, with the better side after Ivan Ahimbisi had given them the lead. Then thereafter, KCCA were in control. Vipers were on the ropes. Their midfield was non-existent. Tadeo Luanga was making fouls left, right, and center. Could have got 2 yellow cards for them, got only 1. KCCA had chances. Shafik Nana Kwikiriza was pocketing the Vipers' right back, Ashraf Mandela. Went past him at will. Even when he was slow, he went past him. When he came at pace, he went past him. When he chose to dribble, he went past him. When he chose to walk, he went past him. That's how poor Mandela was in those one-on-one duels with Shafik Nana Kwikiriza. And fittingly, man of the match, created chances, and Case should have got a second goal. But when they didn't, they were hit with a sucker punch because then the Congolese striker was scoring his first for Vipers very late in the game. And they get the result 1-1 and maintain their 7-point differential over KCCA. And now they can start to look at the possibility of winning a league and cup double.
Yeah, because the cup is happening. The semi-finals are happening. And they play Kitara.
They play Kitara on Sunday in Hoima. If they were to get this a 2-legged semi-final, if they get past that and get into a final, still they'll start as favorites because the other semi-final has URA and Villa. If they were to win against Kitara, still they'll start as favorites against whoever comes through that one. And that URA Villa first leg is on Monday. Then there will be a second leg at Fofa Kadiba later on.
Villa favorites?
Villa favorites, I think, to get through there. URA have been poor this season, and Villa have played some of the best football in the league. I think they've been, if you just want to watch the game and enjoy it, they've been the best side inside the 4 lines this season. But that does not mean they've racked up the number of points to put them top of the league or to make them favorites to win the Uganda Cup. But they are favorites against URA. So Vipers will look back at this week as fairly fruitful because after they got the equalizer, I was one of those who felt they should have gone for it against KCCA at Lugogo. But they started to manage and then fall and try to buy time. They were comfortable with getting a draw because I think they are really worried about that thing of the unbeaten. Yes, they've lost a game in the boardroom, but they've not lost a game on the pitch. So it's playing on their mind, finishing the season unbeaten on the pitch.
Wow.
And that's how I think they conducted themselves after getting that equalizer. They knew that was sufficient in terms of what they needed for them to leave Lugogo very happy. And they had more fans than KCCA at Lugogo. That can never be a good sign, I think, for KCCA. They had more fans. And of course, these teams appeal to a lot of the younger audience. And a lot of that younger audience, Vipers coming out of high school and Chitende, they've been celebrating 25 years of existence. The club was from, the school started in 2001. Of course, the club had been there since the 60s as Bunamwaya only switched names to becoming Vipers much later on. But they have a lot of a youthful audience that was there to cheer them on at Lugogo.
Well, we wait and see what will happen. But some exciting news this weekend, I believe, in Miami. Formula One is back, but Max Verstappen is not happy with the rules, and he has said his
He has
future
threatened to walk away.
in Formula One,
No, he won't walk away.
he's just calling, just...
How do you walk away from a $60 million job? Anyway, abazungu balalu. They can walk away
Because
from
they'll
something.
say their ideals, or how someone will say, my, this goes against what I know.
Well, yeah.
And, so if it's
But
against
there's been
his
also a
values-
tweak in the rules. I think you should watch out for Miami this weekend. There's been a tweak in the rules. They're a bit technical. I'm going to spend time on this show explaining what rule changes have happened, because we're even getting rusty. We are used to having Formula One every 1 to 2 weeks.
But now, been
Now
5 weeks almost.
It's been 5 weeks
Yeah.
because of those races were cancelled in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain.
Yeah.
Our memory needs a bit of rejigging over the next 2-3 weeks. We need a push to remember that Kimi Antonelli is top of the driver's standing and had won the last 2 races.
And those
So it's
that
Mercedes.
19-year-old.
And it's Kimi Antonelli, that's the name.
Sorry.
So then McLaren, by the time we took this unwelcome break, they seem to have worked their way, but the title seems destined between Mercedes and Ferrari, because Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton have done some fantastic work with that car, which seems to have improved from the last few cars that Ferrari have presented in the recent past. So should be an interesting one. But for me, to be honest, I was getting very rusty. So I'm very, very interested to watch and see what's changed and what Miami is going to offer. Yeah.
And in this part of why we should take note, there was a FIFA Congress.
Congress, yeah.
You've already mentioned the red card, the ban for covering your mouth. But what else is there that we should take note of?
One, the easiest, CAF convened in Canada. CAF presidents are in Canada, like all presidents of FAs. The conference is in Vancouver.
Was our president there?
Yes, he was.
He was only banned from US, not...
Sabi tegede, but most Magogo's been there. CAF sat, the 54 members, passed a resolution that they will unanimously vote for Gianni Infantino as FIFA president when FIFA goes to elections in 2027 for a 4-year term.
But
he's been FIFA president for 10 years because he came in 2016.
But even Sepp Blatter, now I don't know what it is. What holds? Is it like, and is that because even in Uganda it's not very easy to unseat the president? Is it like something that is general? Even the gentleman from South Africa, Patrice Motsepe, as well.
Yes, and I actually think sports administration in the world is a cult. You're either in or you're out.
Sepp Blatter did how many terms? There were like 4? But
he came in 1998, left in 2015, 2016. Yeah? But he had been at, and I will argue, and many times I've argued, and this argument may not be welcome, no one has contributed to football globally in our lifetime like Sepp Blatter.
Sepp Blatter, okay.
He joined FIFA as a legal officer, I think, 1975. Served as General Secretary for a very long time before he became, or the Secretary General, before he became FIFA President in 98. That's the man who made the game global. He's the man who on his feet stood up and said, the World Cup, for really to be truly global, will go to Asia, will go to Africa. Because by then it had been a preserve of Europe and a few times Latin America. Yeah, but it was entirely. So it's one who brought this FIFA goal projects, the one that built us in Jeru and built us FIFA House. And that has been repeated in many countries across the world. Because clearly, there was a time, I think, when FIFA, for everything they were doing, there wasn't a trickle-down effect on the benefits of FIFA to all these other small countries. So what Blatter did was to change that. Yeah? And now, that has been, for me, hastened by now Gianni Infantino. There's a lot more money to share. So, what I've mentioned, why I mentioned as point 1 is significant, is the biggest voting bloc. If you have 54 votes from 54 CAF presidents, Europe has 27. I don't know the number in Asia. Latin America, of course, has less. So does CONCACAF. So when you get the African vote, which Blatter had mastered, and many people in Europe did not want it because they felt CAF's contribution, Africa's contribution to football was very minimal, especially in terms of revenue. They not think Africa should have the same kind of power. So even those who criticize Blatter are doing the same thing because it's a CAF vote that will get you there. And for me, it's just understanding politics, how politics plays. So Infantino got that endorsement. That is point number 1. 2 is that story of what FIFA had informed the Canadian FA to tell their government, because the Canadian FA have been the hosts of this FIFA Congress. And the next Congress actually will be hosted by Morocco. Yeah, this was the 76th. The 77th will be in Morocco next year. They had informed Canada of what they would want in terms of a security detail around Infantino, and Canada said no.
Like
Because it would be the equivalent of a president or a pope if he had visited, so that they said no. But there's also a lot of money sharing. There was a confirmation that FIFA is going to spend in excess of $660 million in prize money.
Wow.
Of that, the winner of the World Cup will get $50 million, which is 8 million more than Argentina got. Argentina got 42 in Qatar. But the most important one is that teams that have been qualifying for the World Cup have been getting $2.5 million. For this World Cup that starts in June, every team at the World Cup is going to receive at least $10 million. Actually, $10 million, yes.
I'm so happy
as
for the African
participation
teams
fee.
and for Congo especially.
Yeah,
That's
in terms of the money that CAF is going to give. Now, one of the things that, rather FIFA is going to give, one of the things that FIFA introduced that I liked at the previous Women's World Cup in Australia, because they've seen stories of FAs that do not pass on these proceeds, this loot, to players, and we've seen a story of Togo, for example, refusing to go out for training,
Yeah.
which is a very important element for the World Cup, because FIFA have to shoot video and promote the tournament in 2006 in Germany, and FIFA had to step in and pay players money and then cut it off what they were supposed to give Togo. And we've seen Ghana fly an aeroplane of money to Brazil in 2014. FIFA chose at the last Women's World Cup in Australia to pay players directly. So there was this story that as players arrived at hotels in Australia, you register your name and your account number. And they were being paid $40,000 for playing at the World Cup, each player. So players like the Nigeria Super Falcons, who have had these challenges forever, where the Nigerian FA has not passed on the loot, receive the money in their accounts.
why you're calling it loot. Loot
Yeah.
is not a good word.
No, when money is a lot, it's a loot. So, FIFA were doing that at the last Women's World Cup. I don't know whether they are going to do the same for this. Because if they were, and they say, okay, the share of the 10 million we are giving teams, let's say 7 million or 5 million is going to the players. Do they do the same as you arrive at a hotel in Vancouver, in Mexico, in Miami, in Washington at the World Cup? Do you go and register at the hotel reception? Mebo Kebirunji, room 102, account number, Bank of Uganda, account number this. Then you receive your money individually, because that's what FIFA felt was the solution to FAs taking players' money or not paying the players in time, yet FIFA has paid.
You can't blame them.
Because they have needs to.
Yeah.
I think FAs
Yeah.
have needs to. But in terms of money, this World Cup, according to FIFA, is going to generate over $11 billion.
And that money is just coming in from sponsorship. But the
Sponsorship,
tickets have been very
ticketing,
expensive.
but they are being sold out. Remember
But still,
remember
they're
the
pricey.
capacity of America as the ability to consume in America is very high. Remember the Super Bowl. These guys buy
Super
tickets in
Bowl
excess of
is-
20,000. I've always argued that with the moment LeBron James announces his farewell tour, it's going to be very hard to get a courtside seat for anything less than $10,000. So they're expecting in terms of television revenue, sponsorship, ticket sales, anywhere in excess of $11 billion. And that would be the most profitable World Cup that FIFA has had. And being America, this World Cup is going to be played in 16 cities, 11 of them are in the US. That money is very possible. Those guys have money. When you imagine how much I pay for a ticket, have you seen the Masters when they play golf? The city where the Masters is held, in Augusta National, in Washington, the airport that is closest to the golf course is booked out and there is no space for planes to land during that week of the golf. I've seen, for example, even the tickets for the Ryder Cup in golf that is going to be played next year, should be in Italy in 2027. The cheapest ticket is about $2,000 to go and watch golf, where someone hits the ball and then you wait for them to walk. So,
You've
and people
reminded
do
me.
not compare those
You
things
don't
to
co-
kufe.
I think
Fetoli bubi.
Dagi Nice mentioned we really have different problems. There was a meme some years ago where I think it was Los Angeles or San Francisco that was having a problem of parking airplanes.
Yeah.
Private.
Airplanes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, at least they have problems that are similar to ours. The other day, Paris, the city of Paris, had a problem of rats. And they were calling upon people to bring solutions to rats. I remember our colleague Joseph Owino, and he has been to Paris, the owner of Kawowo.com, the Kawowo Sports, the website. And he said, why don't you just fly in Africans? They'll take care. We chase rats for a living and kill them. So why is it even a crisis? But just understand how difficult this is. I remember the former Everton chairman, Bill Kenwright. He since passed on. So one afternoon, Sky Sports, during the transfer window, transfer deadline day, there's all these bars, they've sent reporters. So they go to the neighborhood where Bill Kenwright lives, and they found him moving out of his house. He was going to walk his dog and then come back home and have tea in the afternoon, around 4 p.m. So the Sky Sports reporter is running around. What's Everton doing on transfer deadline day? And then Bill Kenwright says, you guys, I'll have to walk my dog and then come back and have a cup of tea. Surely that's not. So I was like, okay, this guy's problem is his dog needs to walk.
And ours, in that meme, Daginis, I think, ended saying, oh, now for us, Mama Nalongo has increased her katogo from 3.5 to 4.5. You see?
4.5, that would be too much. From 3.5 to 4,000.
But it is unbelievable. And you see,
it's unbelievable the amount of money these guys are going to pay.
And then when
to
in
watch
Uganda, when juxtapose that with what we started off with, people can't even afford transport to go.
Let me finish with this. There is a story, and I've done some stories. I'm very interested in the economy and sport. There's a story I was doing some time back, and I was doing a story about the cost of hosting mega events.
Yeah. It's
on the Monitor website. I could share the link sometime. But what I was speaking out was not even the cost, because I was juxtaposing the Magical Kenya Open in golf and the KCB Safari Rally and what we do here when we hosted the World Cross Country Championship and the few other events we host, the international ones. But while doing that story, I found a story that was very interesting. The total value of African football, Al Ahly, Mamelodi Sundowns, Esperance, Wydad Casablanca, all these clubs that we find very big, is not even a third of the revenue that Arsenal makes. The total value of African football is not equivalent to Arsenal. And Arsenal are not even the club that makes the most money. And at that time, Arsenal were making about $643 million a year. The entire value of African football is not equivalent to us. Now, imagine there is Real Madrid who make over $1 billion. There is Manchester United, there is Barcelona. Those are often the top three.
Let's continue dreaming, okay? Because we're not going to get there in our lifetime.
We will not.
But maybe our children.
I was in Japan, and when I got back, David Lumansi asked me what we could copy from Japan, and I told him we can only admire.
And indeed, that's where we will leave it at this weekend. Do take care of yourselves. Happy Labor Day to all of you workers. I hope you are not being exploited where you are. Happy May Day, as it is called in London, I think, in the UK. And countries celebrate it first Monday of May, others the 1st of May. But do take care of yourselves. Like, share, subscribe. Keep the comments coming. We love to hear from you. Have a great week.
Are you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Nabingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College Nabingo Road. GMS Nabingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.